At some point in all our lives, it is necessary to reinvent ourselves. How to do so and pull the important lessons from the last chapter forward is often the challenge. Erica M. is the mother of reinvention, literally. Going from being Canada's coolest VJ in the early days of Much Music to being Canada's coolest mom with her highly successful parenting website, YMC. In one of those full circle moments, Erica now has a new podcast called Reinvention of the VJ and joins me to discuss. Welcome back to the show, Erica.
Candace, that was an amazing introduction. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, just so everybody knows, full disclosure, you and I have been friends for a long time. So it was pretty easy to write that introduction.
When I first met you, though, you didn't write.
I
And
didn't.
look at you today. You are the master of reinvention. You're amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. We have a mutual admiration society going on. So tell me what compelled you to start this podcast?
Well, there's a few things. Number one, COVID hit and I was bored out of my mind. So I was looking for a project, something that I could, control. Something, because you can't just sit and wait for things to happen. You have to make things happen. So when COVID hit, I was able to do all the interviews on Zoom. I didn't have to find a lot of people to travel, that kind of stuff. So it became much easier. Secondly, a lot of people ask me about my time at Much Music. And to be honest, I don't remember a lot of it. I was under such severe stress that my brain could not take in all the experiences because I was just trying to survive. And I was curious to know if the other people who did the same job as me had the same kind of experience. And then I was thinking, are they also plagued with "You're Erica M from Much Music" 30 years later? Did they also become defined by their time at Much Music? And what is it about Much Music that resonated so deeply with so many Canadians? And I thought, you know what? There's some really interesting conversation to be had. Plus, when I wanted to do a podcast, people said to me, you should only do a podcast about something that you are an authority on, that no one else can speak to with that authority. And I thought, hello, reinvention and Much Music, that's me.
So did you find, I'm sure you were expecting some commonalities, but did you find them when you started to interview former VJs?
I haven't actually. What I did find is a kinship and a connection amongst everybody. There's this sort of deep connection that we all experience that allows conversation to flow really freely. So I've done a lot of interviews. Now I've done 16 interviews. Only 4 of them have been published and posted so far. But there is this mutual respect and sense of community because we weathered the storm together, even though our storms were different. So this experience for me has been profoundly meaningful in a way that I never thought. And it has healed a lot of sort of emotional challenges that I remember from back in the day because I'm being validated by hearing other people's stories.
Right. So you're not going through it wasn't just you, it was, somebody else was going through these things as well, these very stressful moments.
Yes, and everybody handled it differently and came out different on the other end. But we all experienced the chaos and acknowledged that it was a really hard job.
So you have 4 of those interviews out now on podcast. So who have you interviewed so far?
My first guest was Steve Anthony because his production company is helping me on the production end. He also is the sexy voiceover in every one of the episodes. And he was, he's a crazy guy. You can't sit still for 2 minutes, but we had such an in-depth and vulnerable conversation. I was kind of blown away. It kind of made me cry at one point out of happiness. I interviewed the nicest guy in broadcasting, Rick the Temp Campanelli, and then the woman who has blazed the trail for women in broadcast media, specifically entertainment, Jeannie Becker. And yesterday we dropped George Stroumboulopoulos' interview, also known as Strombo, who I had really no idea how passionate he is, how kind, how empathetic he is, and how important his audience is to him. So each interview completely different, and each conversation was incredibly meaningful to me.
And each of these people have gone on to reinvent themselves in very different ways, right?
Well, that's the thing, is that the one thing that kept us together is Much Music. A lot of people have gone on to careers in broadcast, but in different ways. So it's interesting to see the people who sort of walked away from Much Music and other people who sort of stood on the shoulders of Much Music to, further their careers, both of which are great.
So if people want to listen to this, then where can they find your podcast?
Super easy. It's on every single podcast platform right now. The home is ericaM.com/podcast. But really, all you have to do is Google reinvention of the VJ. It's 5 stars so far. People are loving it. And it's super easy to find. I hope you like it. And I hope that you rate it, that you review it, and leave a comment and reach out to me on social media and tell me what you think.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today, Erica. I'm excited to listen to it myself.
Thanks for having me.